Yo, welcome to another installment of Noob Chess Analysis. Today we're going over a King's Indian game. I was black. We played against a London. So I like to play the London myself, so this is good to play against it. And the King's Indian, the big thing, the big takeaway from this game is all about the power of that bishop that you fee in Keto. And King's Indian and also the accelerated dragon and the Sicilian, that bishop can be super dangerous, especially at lower rating levels. When people tend to forget it's there, you can do some serious damage. So let's dig right in. Whenever I see d4, I know I'm going to be playing King's Indian, so can just start with d6. And then the overall idea is to develop out the knight, fee and Keto the bishop, and obviously you got to push the pawn up. But I go with the knight first, and then yeah, you can see my opponent is playing the London here. So likely going to follow up to protect this bishop. And yep, so one thing that to think about here is once he makes this move with e3, then this bishop is actually locked in. You can't escape with it, right? So actually moving up the knight and getting rid of this bishop is a pretty good idea. It's a strong bishop. If I were white and someone made this move, I would likely go back and have him take if he wanted to, and then open up the H-file. Now, with the London, opening the H-file is very, very dangerous. I've made some videos on it, but it's worth checking out those videos because I love it when my opponent opens the H-file. Anyways, I castle. I did realize I could pick this off, but I wanted to wait. I wanted to castle first. Now, he makes a very strange move with E4. Doesn't make any sense to me. Here he wasted one tempo moving up to e3. Well, that's not much of a waste. That's a good move. But then to make another move up to e4 with the same pawn is a waste of tempo when he could have just pushed it out to e4 in one move if he wanted to. So not great, but he is putting a ton of pressure on e5, which I want to take care of. I want to get rid of. He has 3 attackers on e5, so I want to get rid of one of them. So I put the pin on the knight here, which I like to do, and I decide to take right away. You could wait and see if he'll push this down, but really that just helps him with back rank issues, which actually comes up in this game. So I'm kind of glad I just took outright. The other thing with this pin, with the bishop, with the King's Indian, is if he does push up, then there's no way to escape. So let's say he wants you out of here. If you were to move up again, he could go here and you're trapped. So you got to be aware of that with the King's Indian, that there's no running away from this pin unless you're running away back, which, I mean, why do it? Why make the pin if you're just going to retreat, I think? That doesn't make sense. So anyways, my plan was to take, so I took, and now I'm going after the bishop. At this point, he can escape if he wants to, but he decides not to. He decides to push forward, which is actually a mistake. I take the bishop, and here's why it's an escape. I can actually take here, and so I have a single attacker. He's got 2. Well, I have a single attacker. He has an attacker too that he took with, right? So now we're looking at this single pawn. And what I calculated pretty quickly was that I could create 2 attackers here. And yes, he could push out here and have 2, but then I have my queen, right? So I can have a total of 3 attackers on this pawn, and he, from this point, has no way to get a 3rd defender, so I'm going to win a pawn from this. Now, the actual calculation, this is where post-analysis really comes into play because, and by the way, he does move the rook out to defend, and I do move my queen out to get this pawn. So that's what I calculated. That's what I went with. But there's actually a better move. And post-analysis, super important to do for your games because you learn stuff like this. So I could have taken here. And if he wants to take back, it would be a mistake. But I think he would have, right? I'm pretty sure he would have because that's why he set this up. But you got to look at this. So the King's Indian bishop is so dangerous because of this X-ray. And you can see this is undefended. Also, this rook is stuck. And this usually happens with King's Indian or accelerated dragon, Sicilians, that you'll get the chance to eat this b2 pawn, and then the rook has no way to escape. So this is a super powerful bishop. Now, what I didn't calculate was that I actually could have moved here. And this is an undefended queen. So he has to defend this queen. And really the only way to defend it is to move the rook back to defend. Because he then will be able to eat. When I eat his queen, he can eat back. But after that, you got the undefended b2 square, and your bishop is going to do some work. That is a hungry bishop, and he will eat. He's getting his fair share here. So I didn't calculate that far. It would have looked like this. And then you take, and he really has no way. I guess, so he wants to attack here so that he can get the free pawn. So you go here, he goes here. And then, you can actually think about simplifying here because this is undefended. So you can actually go here and you're X-raying. So he's going to lose a rook here. And actually the best move here would be to move back so that when I take it, he doubles up his pawns. Important post-analysis. All of that is great to understand for future games. I did not do that, first of all. I did not take there. I did move my queen out to get 3 attackers on this, so I'm going to get the pawn, and that's where we'll restart this game. He attacks. Good move. He attacks with his knight. I have to move over. I mean, as you move, you have to remember you still need to attack this pawn, right? That's your whole goal. So you can't move to a square where you're no longer attacking that pawn. I mean, my queen's safe there, so... Now, he wants to double up his rooks to get another attacker. He should have just moved down, but he wanted to make this move, but it's too slow, right? I already have 3 attackers, so I can take now. And he makes another mistake where he's attacking this queen, but the problem is this is an undefended piece, right? And this is a significant move, not only because now it is undefended, but it actually opens up the bishop, right? This knight was doing a job. It was protecting b2 from me getting this open line into the b2 square with my bishop. Now, if I can attack this knight, which I do, he's got to move back. Because if he doesn't move back at this point, then my bishop could have a free reign. If I can take care of my knight, right? I have to move my knight out of the way. But let's see what he does. He makes a huge mistake. Not only does he not see that this bishop has a massive advantage here on this rook, it also opens up, like, I can take here, and then I open up the path for my bishop, and he has to take back, right? So that's what happened. I can take here, he takes back, and then my bishop gets the rook. So that is the power of the King's Indian. That is the power of Accelerated Dragon or Sicilian. That bishop just putting a ton of pressure on that diagonal, and it is super dangerous. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So he goes after a pawn, which is great. And then I'm thinking simplification, and now this is where back rank issues come into play. Whenever you see your opponent not relieve this pressure, you should start looking at ways to get a back rank in. Now, this is a good move here, but he's still here, so I can simplify, right? He simplifies for me, but now he's got some back rank issues to deal with. He realizes that and pushes forward, which is actually a pretty tough move because you can throw a check in and he only has 1 square that he can move to. And that's the h2 square, right? Now, that's important because once he goes to h2, your king and your queen aligned on the same diagonal. And you have a bishop that is the same color of the squares they are on. So do I have a dark squared bishop? I do. Now, so yeah, you should be thinking about a pin here, right? And the other thing you need to think about is that square that adds the pin, is it defended? Because let's say you added a pin without anything defending it, then he could just take back, right? Like if these two didn't exist and I tried to pin him, he could just take it back. So that would be not good. But this square is actually protected twice, so it's an easy pin, right? It actually wasn't the best move. I had mate in 10, but at this point, just get rid of this. Like, for me, it's a blitz game, right? I'm not calculating out mate in 10. I'm looking at this pin, and I'm getting rid of this. I'm getting rid of the queen, and it's game over. So he has to take, and I take back. And from here, it's just, I go to attack the knight. He blunders it, and then he resigns. So, King's Indian, Sicilian, strong bishop. Those are the main things to think of. Anyways, cool little game. Glad you were able to watch it. Check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/yobeebs. Catch you later.